United in anger, the images of sheets of fire devouring Grenfell Tower have found a permanent place in our memories. I don't think anyone will ever forget those images. This is our 9/11 or Hurricane Katrina. Anger against what? Anger against austerity. Financial cuts which were not necessary but a political choice. Financial cuts which have hit our emergency services, our fire services, our ambulance services, all of whom are screaming out that they're being stretched to the limit and facing further cuts. Anger against the profit before safety mentality. A culture in which making money is more important than ensuring safety. A culture in which residents' concerns are dismissed, made impossible. A culture in which dissent is muted, attacked and silenced. A culture in which renovation does not mean sprinkler systems, does not mean working fire alarms, does not mean working fire extinguishers, but a new outer skin for a building to make it look nicer for nearby richer residents. A culture in which it's apparently okay to save a measly £5,000 by opting for the flammable materials rather than the fire-resistant option, which costs £2 more per square metre. Anger against the fact that there are second-class citizens in this country, people who somehow matter less. Already, Tory trolls have been spotted on social media, claiming that the Grenfell Tower tragedy means a few less scroungers claiming benefits. Or suggesting it's not as tragic as it's made out to be because most of the tenants were just Muslims, immigrants and refugees. They've said this, I've seen it. And where those few idiots voice their ignorance, you can be sure more people are secretly thinking it. It doesn't really matter, because they're just foreigners, they're just coloured, they're just gay, disabled, unemployed, single mums, the list goes on and on. Anger against the sheer vacuum of accountability. Who is responsible? Local council politicians, the corporate fat cats involved, the Tory ministers who sat on reports and recommendations for years without doing anything about it, the MPs who voted against measures to ensure all rented accommodation, private and council housing, is fit for human habitation. All of them are scrambling to blame anyone but themselves, even the residents themselves for observing Ramadan, which had nothing to do with the fire, other than that the number of people awake allowed a great many more people to escape than would have otherwise been the case. The only acknowledgement of responsibility I have seen has come from Jeremy Corbyn.
You can cheer when you hear his name.
Who has more or less pointed out that we as a society are all responsible, and we as a society should take our responsibility. Here in Brighton and Hove, the council has made all the right noises. There will be an urgent review of fire prevention measures. Perhaps they might even rethink the priority of sprinkler systems. Currently, it will take 22 years before all these are installed. In this, however, they are only addressing council housing. They have not mentioned the privately owned properties which are rented out on behalf of the council. They have not mentioned the many privately owned emergency accommodations. I have visited some of these places over the last year, talked to people who live or have lived in Windsor Court, Percival Towers, Grand Parade. I have seen for myself many extremely troubling health and safety issues in these places. Mazes of corridors, hallways and stairways. That is an accident waiting to happen. I have also sat across council housing officers who have tried to assure me that everything was just okie dokie in these places. They claim inspections are carried out and all is found to be acceptable. They claim 75% of tenants have filled in evaluation papers and say they're perfectly happy. No one I've talked to has ever seen one of these evaluation papers. They have denied aspects of these emergency accommodations which I have seen with my own eyes, and when I told them they denied I could possibly have seen these things. We asked before, earlier this year, what it would take for them to pay attention. Would we have to wake up to news of a devastating fire or a structural collapse? Poor people, homeless people, vulnerable people carried out in stretchers or in body bags. I was much reminded of these questions this week, now that the sheer inhumanity of the policy of austerity, the policy of dehumanisation of the poor and disabled, has been revealed in all of its ugly nakedness by the disaster at Grenfell Tower, an entirely preventable tragedy. I sincerely hope that Brighton and Hove City Council does implement new and stringent fire prevention measures, but their track record is a reminder that we will have to remind them of the necessity of this, that we expect and demand more than fashionable lip service while the tragedy is fresh on our minds, that we expect and demand real action, not empty platitudes and hollow, meaningless assurances. Take, for example, the case of Bobby Carver. Bobby's over here. A tetraplegic man, paralysed, wheelchair-bound and helpless, housed in an attic flat with no lift, just 2 flights of steep stairs which he is expected to negotiate because, in their own words, the The council thinks there are no serious medical considerations to be taken into account, no matter how often we try to make clear to them that a wheelchair and stairs do not mix. It's not rocket science. Apart from the inadequate housing, there's also inadequate care in place for this man. He's left to his own devices for over 100 hours a week, unable to visit his bathroom, sleep in his bed, use the kitchen. The council continues to deny that he needs adequate care, and they do so for a very simple reason. It must not cost too much money. In reaching their conclusion that they do not have to take this man's case seriously, they have ignored 29 medical letters written by a wide range of independent NHS experts. Privately, they tell each other that these NHS experts are not to be trusted and are not capable of delivering independent, objective advice. I have seen the emails. In reaching their conclusion that they don't have to take this man's case seriously, the council have ignored safeguarding issues raised by the Brighton and Hove NHS Clinical Commissioning Group. They have ignored safeguarding issues raised by an NHS clinical psychologist. They have ignored safeguarding issues raised by the ambulance services, and yes, they have ignored safeguarding issues raised by the fire services. The fire services visited Bobby Carver's attic flat a few years ago, and they were shocked and appalled. They came because Bobby had been trying for 2 years to tell the council that his fire alarms did not work. The council made inquiries with the absentee landlord who lives in Spain. The landlord assured them that the fire alarms worked, all the way from Spain. The council then told Bobby that the fire alarms worked. Bobby would tell them the fire alarms do not work, and the whole cycle would start again. Then at last the fire services came, and they told Bobby, hey, the fire alarms don't work. They also told Bobby that his attic flat is a death trap. They told Bobby that in case of a fire, they would be unable to extract him from his attic. They told Bobby that the new fire alarms they installed were rather pointless. At the most, they said the alarms would wake him up so that he would have 10 minutes or so to contemplate his imminent death. They told him his death would be inevitable in a case of fire. They also told them that they would write a letter to Brighton and Hove City Council to inform the council of their safety assessment and their extreme concern regarding his safety. We've made a Freedom of Access information request, and we've read the letters and the emails, seen the files. The first person to read the letter raised the issue of a manager. We know this because we read it. The manager lied and said that they were not to know that Bobby's health had suddenly and unexpectedly deteriorated, despite the fact that doctors had been trying to tell the council just this for 2 years already. And after that, this manager managed to forget his fire services warning altogether. He made no note of it. He did not file it, he did not raise the issue, and the letter has since been lost. That's how seriously they take these kind of messages from the fire services. And why? Because it didn't fit into the council's narrative that there were no serious considerations to be taken into account. Any admission that there were serious considerations of health and safety would mean they would have to spend more money in adequately housing and caring for Bobby Carver, and this council has resisted doing that for 6 years now. There's no money, they say. That is true. There's no money for, that is not true. There's no money for Bobby Carver's health and safety. There's plenty of money for unbelievably high salaries at the top segment of permanent council officers. No problems whatsoever when their salaries are discussed. There's plenty of money for high-profile projects like the I-360, and there's plenty of money for big companies scrambling for a piece of the taxpayers' pie. I pay taxes, and I pay taxes because I hope the money will be used to caring for the most vulnerable people in our community. Bobby had a working life until he became ill 6 years ago, and he's paid plenty of taxes because he did a lot better at working than I did. He paid them because he hoped the money would be used to caring for the most vulnerable members of our community, because you never know, one day it might be you in need of that care. Neither of us pay taxes in the idealistic hope that the money will be used to line the pockets of senior council managers or their fat cat corporate friends. Yet, that is where our money goes. While people like Bobby, imprisoned in unsuitable homes, hindered by inadequate care, are ignored or forgotten. Or, if they make too much noise, vilified as aggressive lunatics. I've just heard someone tell me they tried to talk to a councillor about Bobby this week, and they were told the councillors are no longer allowed to even discuss his case.
That's true.
Is this man worth less than anybody else in this city? Is this man's life so worthless that we need not worry about his safety, that we can completely ignore urgent warnings by the fire services? It's that kind of mentality which led to the tragedy at Grenfell Tower. Do we really want to see similar scenes in our Brighton and Hove? Are we going to continue to allow this council to run Brighton and Hove like it is a company? Brighton PLC, Hove Limited. This city needs companies, but it is not in itself a company. A city's soul is not measured in the wealth of its wealthiest inhabitants. A city's soul is measured in the collective of its population. A city's soul is the city people, and that's us lot. We are the people. And it is time that we remind this council of an old Sussex saying which has been around for centuries. Sussex won't be druv. We will not be druv. We will not be pushed around. We will not be filed, indexed and numbers. We will not leave because we can't afford the extortionate rents. We will not stand by in silence when those of us who are vulnerable are mistreated and denied basic human rights. I'll end now with part of the poem which inspired Jeremy Corbyn's election slogan. Rise like lions after slumber, in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep had fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. I hope, I desperately hope, that the Grenfell Tower was a wake-up call for those of us still slumbering, and a final straw for those of us already awoken. Are we lambs waiting to be led to slaughter? Are we waiting to be sacrificed on the altar of economic prosperity for the few? No! Are we lions? Yes! It is time now, time to rise and time to roar. Let's hear you roar. Enough is enough! Sussex won't be drubbed! Enough is enough! Sussex won't be drubbed! Enough is enough! Sussex won't be drubbed!
Enough is enough!
Thank you. If you want to keep up to date on Bobby Carver's case, because since he's appeared in the media, we've had lots of disabled people in Brighton and Hove contact him because at least someone is speaking out. He started his own charity now, above everything else, called Still Human UK, which is standing up for disabled rights in Brighton and Hove. We have a Facebook page called Still Human UK. Do find us. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of Brighton and Hove Unison, which represents people who work in housing, and I'm here on behalf of Brighton and Hove Unison, obviously sending our solidarity to the protest. I have my own personal issue. I live in a housing association property that I don't know how they do bureaucracy. They must have been to some special school, but when I read about the difficulties that the Grenfell residents had in getting any kind of dialogue with the different array of subcontractors and who was really in charge, it rang very true for me. It's very, very hard to know who you're talking to because all anybody does is pass the buck. And I personally, because I'm not speaking on behalf of Unison on this one, I'd like to know that whoever is trying to get some sense out of Brighton Council for improvements on sprinklers, please remember that there are many thousands of people in this city, including myself, who live in housing association property, many of whom have been housed there by the council. So hopefully the council will recognise it has a responsibility to us as well. Right, having said that, I'm now going to read the statements. They will probably seem quite cautious because we're very wary of laying blame on anybody, but I think you will all get what I'm saying. Right. First of all, this is from National Unison the day after the fire. Our hearts go out to all those caught up in the fire in Kensington, many of whom still don't know what has happened to their friends and family members, and to those who have escaped but have lost everything. Once again, our emergency services have been on the front line. Brave firefighters risked their lives to save people from the blaze, and NHS staff rushed into hospitals across the capital to treat the casualties. And our fantastic members in the London Ambulance Service once again showed true bravery by rushing into a horrifying situation. The public inquiry announced today must uncover why the flames were able to spread so quickly and why repeated warnings from the residents worried about fire safety were ignored. Anyone living in tower blocks or working in high-rise buildings across the country will understandably be anxious. The government must ensure councils have the money to install sprinkler systems in all tower blocks and carry out urgent checks on any that have recently had external cladding installed. As we have long argued, there must be no further cuts to fire and rescue services or to local authority safety budgets. We cannot risk another tragedy happening ever again. And the next statement is from it came from somebody who works at Preston Circus Fire Station, but it's a national one. But you might be interested to know, if you go to the FBU site, you will see that already they have got something up about the number of counsellors employed in London to help firefighters deal with traumatic situations. There used to be 10, and then Boris Johnson came along and decided that 2 was enough. And my God, anybody who's been through what those firefighters must have been through is going to need all the help they can get, so hopefully money will be put there as well. Anyway, this is what the FBU said. People will be in shock this morning as the horrific events at Grenfell Tower continue to unfold. The thoughts of firefighters from all over the UK will be with the victims of this devastating tragedy and their families. Lives have been lost and many people have suffered serious injuries, and others will be made homeless as a result of this fire. Firefighters and other emergency services have been working through the night to secure the building and save as many lives as possible. They will be doing a particularly difficult job of witnessing brutal and tragic scenes with the professionalism we have come to expect from them. The thoughts of everyone in the fire service family will be with their colleagues in London this morning who are doing a sterling job under very difficult circumstances. A full investigation will need to be undertaken at the first possible opportunity to establish exactly what's happened and what can be done to prevent such an incident happening again. I'm sure you'll hear more from firefighters as the truth comes out, but they were quite cautious. The guy at Preston Circus didn't want to have any kind of speculation and just wanted us to read out the national thing. But I do think it's very important that we remember that all the people who work and deal with and help and try to stop this happening, housing workers in Kensington and Chelsea would have been aware of it. Some of them would have been trying to argue with their managers, I can assure you, to try and improve things. And loads of them have obviously lost their jobs over the years as well. And we urge all of you to support the unions in doing what we're doing. Final statement is from Brighton Hove Unison. We mourn the loss of so many lives, young or old, taken apparently due to the greed and putting profit before people. Each of these people had people who loved them, friends, families, partners, lovers. The devastation of this travesty ripples out. How dare the people responsible for this think it's okay for people to be used as financial pawns? These were real people with real lives trying their best to live a life. Human life has become cheap, apparently at the altar of profiteering. We share the anger many feel for the loss of precious life, and because unless you are wealthy or in some way deemed notable, your life means nothing to those who run this country. You are the cannon fodder, the collateral damage. We refuse to live in such a society. And then you turn the coin over and watch and learn of the amazing, wonderful, ordinary people who have done such amazing things at such a time. The firefighters and paramedics and NHS staff. Those ordinary people who have given their time and money and effort and love to those in need. And that gives us hope that there is a good mood amongst us, more than the bad. And then we watch Corbyn hugging the residents who are still in shock, and we're so pleased to see a true leader going into this situation, showing that he genuinely cares. We are so sorry that to all who have lost someone in this horrific event, because given how little anyone in this government cares, it could have been any of us, our friends, our families, or our colleagues. Thank you.
Not good enough. And here in Brighton, whilst I am told that the cladding in our buildings isn't the same kind of cladding that we saw in Grenfell, whilst I'm told that the fire doors there are safe and secure, and whilst the fire authority is investing in sprinklers in some of our tallest blocks, that action is far too slow, and reassurances are far too little. We need an emergency inspection of every single house and housing block, whether it be owned by the council or whether it be owned by a private landlord that is subsidised through housing benefit, because that's what it is, a state subsidy for private landlords. They all need inspections, and they should be done in the next week without delay. The Conservative MP in Hove until 2010, of course, made it illegal through his bill to squat in buildings, a bill that his office manager, Conservative councillor Robert Nemeth here in the council drafted, made it illegal to squat. But clearly now and I think Jeremy Corbyn has set the right tone in saying that empty properties need to be brought in to the public hand and given to people. No more can houses be considered some asset that nobody lives in and just are there as a piggy bank for the rich. So I know that we may come from different political backgrounds, us here, and sometimes from different political ideologies, but on this and many other things, I hope we are united in showing our solidarity to the people of Grenfell, to showing our solidarity with the emergency service workers, with the council workers that tried to raise the alarm, and we are united in holding this nasty, murderous government and their capitalist friends to account, and we say no more. Thank you.
So now the plan is we're going to move to a fundraiser at the Auntie Gallery at the bottom of Trafalgar Street, and as has been in the background of every speech, before Grenfell and after Grenfell, this government has been murderous, and I think we should make some noise as we walk there. So when I say May,